All right, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hopefully you're having a great Sunday. We've got two really good football games coming on today. Hopefully a little bit better than yesterday. Although the Washington-Detroit game was entertaining from an offensive perspective. Hopefully the bets are a little better today. Let's do a quick recap. In the NBA, we went 3-4 with two hooks. Tatum finished at 8 rebounds. We needed 9. Van Fleet, we had under 4 rebounds. He finished at 4. So GG there. We did hit Jalen Duren over rebounds. We hit Jonas over rebounds. Clint Capella under rebounds in that contest. In the NFL, that was a rough one. Probably the roughest NFL day we've had in a little bit. We went 2-6. So not great there. Just not a lot of offense on the Chiefs side of the ball, unless you're counting the refs. But anyway, and then we had a ton of offense in the other game, but Jaden Daniels ended up a few yards short of what we needed. Eckler hooked us and got 4 receptions. Montgomery, very non-existent in that game, so did not even get a single reception. Samaje Perine didn't get a reception. Xavier Worthy didn't hit his line, and Hopkins didn't get a catch to my knowledge. So just more Travis Kelce and more Travis Kelce. But today's a new day. We got 2 great games. Should be entertaining on the NFL side. Let's get into this slate. We're going to talk about the NBA, and then we will circle back and talk about the NFL. If you guys want, you can use the timestamps down below to navigate wherever you want to get to. First game on the card is going to be the Spurs and the Heat. Jimmy Butler is back. Not that it matters. He's a little bit toxic, but it does matter for one of our bets. In this one, we see Miami -3 going against the Spurs. Haven't really backed Miami too much this year, but I do like this spot for them. So I will take Miami -3, lean towards that over 219.5. Denver Nuggets and the Orlando Magic. We see the Magic +6.5. Question here is just going to be, does Jokic play, right, from an injury perspective? If he does, I would take Denver -6.5. This Orlando team just hasn't looked fantastic. A strong lean towards the under 221.5. This is a very, very high over-under for a Magic game. All right, 76ers and the Bucks. So we've got Philly +10.5. No Embiid. Who knows who else is out? They've got a ton of injuries. I don't want to touch this over-under. I don't want to touch the +10.5, -10.5 line. This game's a complete fade for me. If I had to pick something, I would go with the under 223, but not a strong lean either way in this game. Lines are just not good. Nets and the Thunder. We see Thunder -16.5 against the Nets. They'll probably hit it, but I'm not touching a line that high. I would go with the under 217.5 as my best bet, or Brooklyn Nets team total under in this contest. All right, Lakers and the Clippers. We see the Clippers giving 4 to the Lakers. AD is a game time decision. Not sure if he will play. Zubac is a game time decision as well. Kawhi should start to see a little more minutes. I think he got 23, 24 minutes last game. They're going to keep increasing his minutes. So I do think that helps here. Give me the Clippers -4 over 214.5. Love that spot as well. The Wiz and the Kings, the Wizards, another 16.5 dog in this contest. Wizards on the road traveling to Sacramento. I don't love this spot for them. Play I would have in this game is going to be the under 232.5 in this contest. Don't want to pick a -16.5 or a +16.5 here. Last game on the card is going to be the Bulls and the Trailblazers. See Trailblazers only getting 5. This is a pretty low line for them. For the Bulls, 235.5 is a fairly low line for them. I would lean towards this under 235.5. I think Portland's going to end up playing a lot better D today. So I do lean towards the under 235.5. I would take the Bulls -5 if I had to. But that's where we're at in the NBA. Let's get to the NFL. Let's get to the sweet spot here, the fun stuff today. All right, first game on the card, Rams and the Eagles. We see Eagles -6.5. There was some sixes out there if you were able to grab that. We've got an over-under of 42.5 with the under favored. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I mean, from a weather perspective, it is going to be cold somewhat. I mean, it's going to be 32 degrees and calling for snow. So we've got some snow, 32 degrees. In the other game, we've got 12 degrees with a slight chance of snow showers. Wind's not really a factor in either game, so we're not too worried about that. For me, if we look at this Eagles game, they just have such a significantly better defense than the Rams. They allow the fewest wide receiver yards. They allow the third fewest passing yards. In terms of rushing yards, they're seventh in fewest amount. So it's really going to pose some challenges here. I mean, we see a over-under for passing yards for Stafford of 211.5. That is ridiculously low for him. I would bet the over. It's not on the card, but I would lean over. I think he's going to be somewhat effective today, right? If we look at Puka's yards, it's like 85. So they're saying Puka's going to do a vast majority of his yards. I'm not sure Puka's going to have a ton of success. We haven't seen Cooper Kupp really do anything. I don't know if I thought he would show up last game. He absolutely did not. So you're going to be relying on guys like Demarcus Robinson. Tutu Atwell was like plus 100 to get a reception or receiving yard. So that might be a play. I'm not touching it. But in this one, I think the Phillies should be able to cover this -6.5. That said, this Rams team just finds ways to stay in the game, but I think Saquon's going to wear them down. So I think he's going to run the ball a decent amount. I think Hurts is going to run. This Eagles offensive line, like I said, is just significantly better than the D line of the Rams. So I don't think they're going to have a ton of success in terms of trying to get to Hurts. And if they do, I'm sure he'll scramble out and, find some guys in this contest. So give me the Eagles -6.5 here. And then the fun game, the Ravens and the Bills. So these two teams squared off, I want to say September 29th, I believe. And the Ravens ended up winning this one. Really, it's just going to come down to the Bills D. This feels eerily similar to Detroit, right? Can their D actually stop Baltimore? And I don't know if they can. I think Derrick Henry should be able to run pretty wild. This Bills team has been extremely susceptible to the run. So I'm sure part of the game plan for the Ravens is going to be to run. If we look at the pass attempts for Lamar, it's pretty low. It's 28.5. Now, when he did play him the last time, he threw it 18 times. So not sure what we can gauge from that. He's only gone over 29 pass attempts or 28.5 in one of his last 5 games, and that was against Cleveland of all teams. So not sure I love that. But I do think they just absolutely pound Derrick Henry. I think on the Buffalo side of the ball, offensively, I don't know how much success James Cook's going to be able to have. This is a very stout run D. I think Josh Allen is going to have to use his legs today if they have any chance of winning. So to me, Baltimore -1.5. My gut wants to go Buffalo, but I think just kind of looking at the game, Baltimore's really good. Obviously, no Zay Flowers, but they've been able to do it with Rashad Bateman, with Mark Andrews, guys like that. So I do think they end up pulling this out. I think Derrick Henry just kind of pounds them into submission with the run. But I do think we get some fireworks in this game. I think Josh Allen will make some plays happen. I think it'll be a fairly tight game. I do lean towards the over 51.5. I like the over in both games. I think the Eagles-Rams game, I've got it somewhere in the neighborhood of 25-18, somewhere in that area. And then this game should be pretty, it's either going to be tight or it's going to be a blowout. I mean, people can try to tell you, but I could see this being like 28-24 Baltimore, something like that. So maybe look at taking Baltimore team total over. I think it's going to be an entertaining game to say the least. But let's get into the best bets, get you guys on your way. If you haven't yet, join the Discord. absolutely free. Link is down below. We're posting plays in there. We're crushing college, actually. So we've got a couple college games today we'll look at. Maybe post some slips in there. Posting hockey. There was some MMA in there last night. So good stuff. Absolutely free to join. All right, let's get into NFL first. We're going to go Kyron Williams under 19.5 rush attempts. He's over this line in 4 of his last 10. He had 16 in their last playoff game versus Minnesota. Philly 7th in rushing yards. Only 3 running backs all season went over 19.5 rush attempts on them. So I just don't see this happening today. Give me A.J. Brown over 4.5 receptions. This is a pretty low line. He's over this in 6 of his last 10. Now, I think we're seeing this because he had 2 and 1 receptions in their last 2 games. But Los Angeles, we're also seeing this because the Rams do a good job of limiting receptions to wide receivers. They're third. But I think A.J. Brown steps up today. Typically, when he has games where he goes low, typically goes high. So I like him to have a nice day today. Give me Jake Elliott over 1.5 field goals. He's over this in 5 straight games, 8 of his last 10. Give me James Cook over 13.5 rush attempts. I know it's a bit contrarian to what I said in terms of him getting his yards, but if you're the Bills, you can't stop running the ball. So I do think he gets these rush attempts. He's only over this in 5 of his last 10, and he only had 9 versus Baltimore. So if you want to fade it, there are plenty of reasons to fade it. Don't get me wrong. But I think he gets his attempts today. Give me Derrick Henry over 96.5 rush yards. The line's just too low. I mean, he had 199 yards against them in September. His last 4 games, he's had 162, 147, 138, and 186 yards. And like I said, this Bills D, very susceptible. Obviously, they are going to plan to try to stop him. But if you do that, you got Lamar who can take off as well. So I think Derrick Henry goes over his line. James Cook, anytime touchdown. He has had 7 touchdowns in his last 5 games. He's had a touchdown in 8 of his last 9 games. And one thing Baltimore isn't necessarily, they're proficient, but they're 10th in terms of rushing touchdowns allowed. So they do give up some rushing TDs here. And then the last play on the card is going to be Lamar Jackson over 16.5 longest rush. You could have found this at 15.5, but it wasn't up very long. 16.5, I still think he goes over. He's over this in 5 of his last 6 games. In the 2 games versus Buffalo, he's had long rushes of 18 and 19 yards. So he's covered this in both games. All right, let's get to NBA. Sunday in the NBA, we're going to keep it light. 5 plays. 5 plays that I like. We're going to start with Bam Adebayo over 15.5 points. I don't think I've ever played a Bam points prop, but it's a really good spot for him. He's over this in 5 of 6 versus San Antonio. San Antonio 29th in terms of points allowed to the center position. And when Jimmy Butler in the lineup, he just scores more. He's over this in 4 straight games with Butler in the lineup. All the statistics and everything line up really well for him to go over this line today. D'Angelo Russell under 8.5 rebounds plus assists. He's only over this line in a couple of games lately. And I think this is going to end up being an absolute blowout given the lines. So I like him to go under today. Now, I think it's 8.5 because this team does give up a lot of rebounds to the point guard position. He's just not a guy that's going to go try to grab a ton of boards. So if he ends up grabbing 4 or 5 boards, his line's probably cooked. Chris Middleton under 1.5 3-pointers made. He's only over this in 4 of his last 10 games. Philly does a good job in limiting 3-point attempts to the small forward position. They're 7th in terms of fewest attempts. And this team is so weak underneath the basket that I think everything is going to be working inside. So I think Giannis could have a really nice day. I think guys like even Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, guys like that could end up going over their points props potentially, but we're just going to fade Middleton here. Next play is going to be Jonas. We're going right back to him, over 6.5 rebounds. We're getting this line again. He's over this in 8 of his last 9 games. He is over this in 11 of 11 versus Sacramento. He's averaged 11 rebounds against them. Sacramento very prone to allowing rebounds. So good spot here with a high line, blowout potential super high, which means Jonas is going to get decent amount of minutes. So love him to go over this line. And then last play on the card is going to be Christian Braun. Christian Braun over 14.5 points, rebounds, plus assists. He's over this in 6 of his last 10 games. He scores 63% of his points under the basket. Orlando significantly weaker right now under the basket with Goga Batadze out, Franz Wagner. They're really relying on Wendell Carter, and then he'll play against their second rotation, who is even weaker. So really nice spot for him to be able to get some points, a couple rebounds. I don't think he's going to do much on the assist side, but he might tack on 1. I think he probably gets 4 rebounds. So we need him to get, 9-10 points, which I think he gets pretty easily today. So those are the plays, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Like I said, join the Discord. Link is down below, and I'll catch you in the next video.